Please take that for the film. I'm on 1270 tomorrow, question to Mary.
He said yes. Okay. Erdman.
Yes.
Lum.
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
England.
Yes.
Hackman.
Yes.
Sal.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Bixler.
Yes.
All in favor.
Anything else, Director England?
That's it.
Thank you for your committee's work. And we move on now to Director Bixler.
Move item A.
Seconded?
Any discussion? Howard?
Well, if it's not moved, you wouldn't need to vote on it. But if there's a motion and a second, then there would be a vote, unless they're withdrawn. But you don't need to vote on it.
At this point, let's go to discussion. I guess we're all in that discussion.
This puts us in a very, I think, a difficult situation since we've done it for so many years. I certainly don't want to vote if it's illegal. I would like to hear from the county and wondering what they're basing their opinion on, but we don't know that tonight. And so I would have to support the solicitor on this just because I don't want to be doing something illegal as a board member, but I still strongly support it, and I would hope we have to do something to support our fire companies. And we do have a motion, I think, don't we?
I'll withdraw my motion.
So you make it easier. This should still be a topic of discussion. I still think we should get information. We have one opinion, but I'd like to see what else is out there.
Yeah, Steve, I think by withdrawing the motion, since we learned from Howard that if we vote on this and it gets voted down, then the only way you can vote on it again is if you voted in the majority to do that. So if Bonnie, if she withdrew her motion and nobody else motions in the second, it leaves it out there in the cloud, so to say, and can be revisited at any time or in any meeting, right, Howard?
That's correct, and you also have your alternative motion that was made.
Yes.
So I'm going to let item B and C in the clouds, okay? For the same reason. I move item B. Second.
Discussion. Vote.
Erdman.
Yes.
Lum.
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
England.
Yes.
Hackman.
Yes.
Sal.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Bixler.
Yes.
Howe.
Yes.
All in favor.
I move item E.
Second.
Discussion.
I think this is a happy ending to a long story, so I'm really happy that we were able to revisit this after they came and made us aware that, kind of forgot. And so we do listen to the community and try to fix the problems that we can. And I think this is an example of where we're doing that and being a good neighbor where we can be.
Any other discussion? I'd like to thank the Property and Service Committee for looking at all the different options and really thinking this out what's best for the community and for the school. And I think where you've come to at this end shows the professionalism that your committee has put forth. I thank you very much for that. Vote?
Lund,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
England,
Yes.
Heckman,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Kinsler,
Yes.
Howe,
Yes.
Erdman.
Yes.
All in favor?
Move item F.
Second.
Motion. Do we have the motion? Is everybody know the motion?
Can you say it?
Sure. The motion was Northern Lebanon School District donates $25,000 in total to the fire companies located within the school district and serve the school district.
Okay, so that would involve how many schools, or how many fire companies?
8.
8,
There's a total of 8 in the district.
okay. And then that would be delineated among all 8, and what about the ones that are combined? How are we gonna figure out the details later?
I think in similar situations like that, we should allow the administration and the fire companies to work out those
So we
arrangements.
approve them out and then they,
If we don't like it, then we yell at the administration.
Yeah, I mean, you can approve it, but we aren't just going to arbitrarily pick something. We never do that. We always give you other options and opportunities.
So if we're not arbitrarily picking something, could somebody explain to me how we came up with $25,000?
I came up with $25,000, and I apologize to the firemen that are still here that it isn't more, because the costs that you explain are great, and the services that you provide to our school district are tremendous, and we're extremely grateful. I calculated on the back of a napkin the other week that our buildings are worth $100 million. So if you could help put out a fire or save one of our buildings, that would be a great savings to the taxpayer. Not to mention the priceless of you saving one of our children or faculty in an emergency. And we never know when the next emergency is going to be, if an airplane crashes into one of our buildings or something bizarre happens that you only see in the movies, like on Interstate 78. So you need to be prepared for everything and anything, and we just can't say be prepared for these 3 things. So we as a community, and we as a school district, part of that community, need to provide you with the best training and the funds for the best equipment, so when you face that situation like Interstate 78, that you're ready and that you will have the best outcome. And so, again, the $25,000 doesn't do justice, but we have to do that. So my $25,000 was based on just estimates of how many calls you could come if you say they're worth $2,000, and you provide the kindergarten at Jonestown, which is every kindergarten student in our school district, and provide fire safety checks and know our buildings inside and out. I think $25,000 is a very modest price and donation for everything that you do for us. And my hope and goal is that this is not a one-time donation, that we'll put this in our budget, and this will be an annual contribution. So this isn't a $25,000, thanks for showing up and bringing your fire trucks and all your firefighters, but this is hopefully the beginning of a better relationship and us being a responsible partner in the community and providing all the fire companies what they need to do their jobs.
I definitely support a donation. And I appreciate the thought you put into picking that figure. But I feel like we need to think about it to make sure that that figure makes sense.
Do we also, I'm sorry, but don't we need to actually allow some community input as well, since we added an agenda item?
I added it before input, so the community had their opportunity for that.
Okay,
That's correct.
all right, thank you.
To submit, we have to submit before a meeting starts.
I
I would like to speak to this. If anybody who was here last week knows how I feel about firefighters, so I won't tell that story again, so I won't start crying again. But I do feel like we have a responsibility first to our district and to the kids and to the teachers. We don't have a budget yet. We don't know for sure what we're getting from Harrisburg. We don't have a contract. I'm on the negotiations committee, and that is something that I'm very concerned about. So I cannot support this at this time. It's not that I don't support the idea. I think it's a fabulous idea. But I do think that we have to be very careful to put first things first. Last week I said, you know, just like when you're on an airplane, they tell you to put on your own oxygen mask first before you help your child. I think we need to put on our oxygen mask first before we help those around us. It's not that they're not great causes. I believe in what they're doing. I think it's a great idea. But I think at this time, it's not fiscally responsible for us to do this.
Robbie, I just want to say to you that I really appreciate how you spoke to Jonestown Borough. You know, I was part of the team that tried to make an effort or give an olive branch, and that means so much to me that you publicly said, even though what we did was small or smaller than maybe you really need. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The other thing I want to comment about, and like we don't go back and forth with the audience, I wish we could, but the thing that bothers me and some of my experience through that whole thing with the borough is over the last 2 weeks, I've been hearing, and this is just what I'm hearing, I'm not saying this is in fact, but I've been hearing that depending on how the board votes, the teachers won't be allowed to park in those 8 spaces as of tomorrow morning. You know, I've also heard that if we don't exonerate, which I know we're not talking about exonerating right now, if we don't exonerate, then the fire company is going to send us a bill, you know, for educating our children. And I just don't, I want to have such a good relationship with the fire company, and that's why I said, like, I really appreciate what you said about Jonestown. And I just want to stick with, like, I really appreciate what you do, and I hope you appreciate what I do, and we all have really tight budgets. Now, I know that our budget is $35 million, and that's different than yours. But I just want to know that I'm making the right decision for our district. And to go off of what Rachel said, we don't have a current contract for our teachers, and that is something that's really important for me. The $25,000 wasn't built into the budget, so we're not talking about next year where we could look at building in a donation. I also wonder, like, $25,000, if we just say split that up equally, that's nowhere close to the $10,000 that you were asking for. So would that still be an olive branch to you? I don't know. So I don't know if there's any way if Robbie can communicate whether that rumor I heard was true or not. But I don't want things to be like, I just want like a really positive working relationship, and I really do want to do things for the fire company, and again, I do appreciate what you said about Jonestown Borough.
Can I just make a statement? I didn't know Dave was going to make that motion, okay, of $25,000. Sitting here, I was thinking, when he said $1,500 a year, it costs them to educate our kindergarten kids, and 30 years ago, well, 25 years ago, when my oldest niece went to school, she was so excited when the fire company came and did that fire prevention. And she made us do a plan in our house that if there was a fire that she could get out, and how we had a duck roll and, you know, get below the smoke in the whole 9 yards. So that's 25 years, and back then it probably didn't cost $1,500, it might have cost $500, okay? But to me, you know, this is right now a one-time thing, and I support it because I think when you think of all the kids they have impacted and what they have done for them, if it saves one kid's life, it's, to me, that's a greater service than I could ever want. So, you know, when Dave said that, at first I thought, wow, that's good amount of money, but really when you think about it, is it? You know, and I don't know, I just support, and people know it, I support the fire company. I think it's, you know, what they have done for us is great, so.
Dave, I thank you for bringing that up this evening. I wish we'd have done that years ago, but we didn't. And this has kind of brought it to our attention how much we owe our fire companies. I was one that moved here. I think Terry was talking this, or I moved here 19 years ago thinking I'm going to join the fire department. We had to talk to Chief Bachman, I think, and I realized there's no way. I mean, all the hours, even back then, that's required, and it's quicker. I couldn't do it, but these guys have dedicated and given of themselves, sacrificing tremendously just in the training alone, let alone everything else they're doing for us. And so I believe this is partnering with us incredibly well as far as a school district supporting our local fire departments. It's exciting to see this possibly working because all that they do for us, and I was reminded, I think, of the email we got this week of all that the fire companies do for us throughout the school year, I knew nothing about. And so I think this will be a good starting place this year, and let's put it in the budget for next year, even if we could do even some more for them. So I'm very happy you brought this on the table this evening.
I'm just referencing, and I don't want to paraphrase what you said, Howard, but in making a donation, I think that it would be beneficial for us to really look at what is provided and think about fiscally. Certainly we want to recognize what the fire departments do for us. However, I think in light of what you said, it's pertinent for us to really look at what is provided. I think the other thing is it sounds like we're really referencing Jonestown, but my understanding is there are 8 fire companies that we need to be considering. And I hope rumor isn't true that there would be charges for what's provided at Jonestown, but I do think that certainly among the 8 there could be opportunity to work out in mutual agreement for fire prevention and services with fire drills and review of plans and partnering in that way. So I really think that we just need to seriously look at what's being provided and then make a decision of what an appropriate amount if we decide to go the donation route. So unfortunately tonight I just can't quickly make a choice to give $25,000. I don't want to summarize what
Well, what I had said was that a donation can be made in recognition and consideration of services provided by the fire companies, and it's up to the board to decide whether you have enough information on that or not.
I also just want to say one other thing, and I think when you're talking emotional, it's really difficult to be the one to stand up and say, but I did receive calls this week from both sides, and there are a good amount of taxpayers that are out there saying, I give to the fire companies, however, please use my tax money for what that is designed for. So, you know, just like you're saying, Rachel, about putting the mask on and putting the focus on the district, our job is to educate our children right now. And I know we had the conversation, Mr. Taylor, about what you said was at the end of the day, who saves lives? And I think you had a very valid point. However, at the end of the day, I need to feel comfortable in knowing that I'm doing what's best to educate our children.
I'd like to talk about the donation. I think that was one thing we said last week. We didn't give an actual number, but I'd really like to look into the donating part also. Like Amy said, it would be interesting to see how much money they are kind of donating us with their time, and kind of use that as a basis, as at least a starting point of what we would think about donating. I'm kind of intrigued by this whole thing because like Steve, you've been on the board 14 years, 12 years, and in 12 or 14 years, has it ever been discussed before about donating them? Okay, and exonerating them from taxes has never been discussed before. I think, Dave, you've been on the board 8 or 10, 12 years?
6.
Is that it?
Does seem longer.
We've exonerated, I mean, we've done.
Right, for Lickdale, yeah.
Yeah.
But I just, it's interesting to hear, and I think it's really great, but how passionate a lot of, some of you seem to be about this, but yet it was never a priority before, other than at Lickdale.
I'm sad it wasn't. I mean, it's too bad it wasn't brought to our
I think
attention.
somebody told me that there was somewhere in the mid-2000 that Fredericksburg got exonerated for a piece of property for 1 year.
But I'd really like to look into, I think it would be neat to be a part of a new movement here and showing appreciation. I just can't vote yes tonight on 25,000 without being more educated about the number. But I would like to be a part of a new movement on the board that does recognize and try to give back a little more monetarily to the fire company.
I don't know that I can say anything different than what's been said, so I'll keep it brief, but, I absolutely would support financially supporting our fire companies. I think that they do a phenomenal job of educating our children. They are part of our community, a part of our community that I would like to see continue. I certainly understand the strife that they've expressed of recruiting new members and looking for donations and the amount of time and training and the expensive equipment. And I would certainly, as Nate said, like to contribute. And I appreciate Director Howe presenting us with this opportunity, but I would like more time to look at it and think about it. It was just presented tonight. We didn't have it on the agenda previously. And I would like some more time to think about it and look at it. And so for that reason, my vote would be no.
I just wondered kind of what our options would be if this is something that we want to look at for budgeting purposes for next year, or building it into the budget, talk about it at management committee or something like that. I mean, so we could the motion could be withdrawn, we could table it, or we could vote. Is that those are the options?
Is tabling it an option?
Okay. So those are our options.
Yes.
Any other discussion? I'd like to just wade in here just slightly. Everyone heard me talk last week. I was a former firefighter. Certainly did not have to put the hours in that the firefighters have to put in today. My wife just retired from being secretary for umpteen years at Greenpoint, so we certainly know the financial end of firefighting, and with the merge, it was just a good time for her with Lickdale. It was a good time for her to retire. So I have a background, and although there are a lot of fond memories, I guess that there's two things that I took away. One was Howard's email kind of expressed what the state viewed when they created the school board as far as what we can do. And the idea right now is that we're doing a workaround which I think has merit, something to look at. But if I really look deep into this, the idea of the state not allowing us to exonerate or to do other things was to say that we as a school board are not really to, just to arbitrarily donate to worthy causes, because I cannot think of any more worthy a cause than the fire department. These guys risk their lives, they have equipment, they have costs. I mean, it is a huge responsibility that they undertake. But it could be said, like I think in the email, that you might have another very worthy cause. I'm just going to make one up, say a battered women's shelter, maybe somewhere in northern Lebanon County, that takes battered women and their children, and we say, for northern Lebanon children, this is really helping, because they take these women in and their children, and it affects these children in the way that they are learning, and so we should donate to that cause. And then someone else might have another one. So where does these great causes, our thing from the state, or whatever you want to call it, our power from the state comes from the idea that we are to educate and be the public voice for public education. And when we get into a lot of these extra donations and things like that, now services provided, I'm all about that. I think as long as it's reasonable, I think that's a good workaround, because it's not saying that we are donating per se. We are paying for, in effect, a service provided. So that's where I kind of come down, and it's more of a legal thing. I think that the state has voiced their opinion on how they view our task and what we should and should not do, and we can do a workaround. But the intent of that law and that statute, I think, was more to say that this is not an area that we should enter into. In my discussions with a couple of the school boards, I did ask them if they did any donations or anything else, and they had not. And certainly this might be one that we can, be someone that takes that flag and moves forward with it. But I would caution that whatever amount that we decide to give this year, if we do decide to give it an amount, will be locked in. The idea that you're going to then take away something that you've donated one year and then the next year say, no, we're not going to do that, it would not happen. So it's something that you have to be willing to have, even in those tough budget years that Dave Houck navigated through, when we had to make those. We had two great programs, and we had to decide which one was going to go. They were both great, and we had to decide. Those were some tough things, and without having the state budget, without having last year's state budget, much less coming into this year's state budget, we don't know what the ending fund balance is going to be. Hard line, nor do we know what the teacher contract is. I would like to certainly have the programs committee and the management committee, whichever one makes more sense, to look at a policy that would incorporate what what the firefighters are doing for a school district, and how we can adequately compensate them. Not overcompensate them, but adequately compensate them for the service. Because no matter what amount it could be 25, it could be 10, it could be 100,000. No amount could ever really repay them for the services that they do. But I think if we take it into a committee and really talk about what's being involved, what is the effect on the budget, how can we best resolve this, I think that would be, for everybody's benefit, that we're walking through. Dave, I really like that you kind of threw this out there to give us something to kind of think about and to build upon. So I think that I'm going to vote no, but not because I don't think it's worthy. I just think we need more information at this point. Any other comments? Let's take a vote.
No.
England,
No.
Hackman, Sal,
No.
Gray,
No?
Bixler,
Yes.
Howe,
Yes.
Erdman,
No.
Lund.
Yes.
No, 3 yes.
Director Bixler, do you have anything other for property service? If not, we'll go to the superintendent's report.
Four items on the superintendent's report, enrollment figures, guidance updates, principals reports, and newspaper articles.
Any questions for? Any questions for Dr. Bell?
Dr. Bell, I was just gonna verify, you're gonna get us class sizes for kids in Jonestown kindergarten going to first grade?
Yes.
Okay, I thought there was one other one I requested too. I'm sure you have. Sorry, wrong line. I was just requesting the numbers for kindergarten.
And the kindergarten going to first grade at the appropriate spots, just so you know, if you want to write them down now. Jonestown will have 72, Fredericksburg will have 37, Lickdale will have 36, and East Hanover will have 30.
Can you do that one more time?
Jonestown 72, Fredericksburg 37, Lickdale 36, and East Hanover 30. Right, Lena?
Thank you.
No other questions? Thank you, Dr. Bell, for your report. Report from our representatives. Career and Technology Center. Steve?
The minutes are attached to our board report tonight. But I wanted to mention the month of January, they had set aside for all the directors of each of the different departments to meet with. Ended up just being myself. We had around 8 of them. They fed a supper, and then each of them discussed their department and what they're doing at CTC. And there's some exciting things that are going on, exciting things that are happening. But they spent over an hour with myself just going over some of their visions and dreams and what they're doing. And I was very impressed. And they treat me very well. I'm not sure if they treat me better than IU, but these guys are doing a great job. So we're fortunate.
Steve, years ago I did a project for the CTC. It was kind of making some visuals of each of the departments. And boy, when you get to the kitchen, they really made out the departments. That was one of the perks of getting that assignment. So thank you.
Just what I need to.
Yes. So
My very first meeting, they sent home a gift basket. And I brought that in the door, man. My kids were all excited about all the goodies they gave us. So they do almost as good as Lena does for us, too. So give kudos to Lena also. But yeah, it's
You might have to claim that on your ethics form.
okay. Anything else, Steve? Thank you very much for your report. Stacy Murray, the IU 13.
There's an attachment for the IU 13 conference at Peckway Valley School District on April 13th. It's coming together of the community for public education for Lancaster and Lebanon counties. If you have any questions about that, certainly would refer you to that attachment, but I think it sounds like a really exciting opportunity to see what other schools are doing and get excited about education. Again, the IU is treating me well. I don't know, Steve and I might have to compete over who treats us better, but they're a great organization, very happy to be the representative again. So thank you for the opportunity to be a part of that.
Anything else, Stacy?
No.
Thank you very much for your report. Director Sell.
I have no idea how you're treated because I was sick at the last meeting and that would have been my response.
You're lucky to get a glass of water.
From what you've told me. But I am relying very heavily on Mr. Edmonds' advice. There's been some correspondence and some surveys, and he's been very helpful with helping me with
Thank you, Director Sell. Director Murray, anything on the legislative front?
I sure wish I had something to report, but I don't. Dr. Bell and I will be at the legislative breakfast on Monday, and time will tell.
Thank you, Stacey. And the Rec Commission representative, Director Sell.
Next meeting is May 21st. I encourage everyone to come out. There was some delay with the meeting, so there isn't a new report. There hasn't been a meeting since my last report.
Thank you. There is no additional input as far as is that correct? Anyone? We're good?
I have just one quick thing to say, and I just want to say to everyone. One thing that's been on my mind is back to the board conference. I'd really like to have a follow-up time, so start thinking if there would be a time that would be good. I never got to finish my gift survey that day, and we never had the opportunity to really talk through that. Just watching the golf today was like, oh, that would maybe be fun for a board conference. Can we do a recreational team building activity as if we announce it as a conference?
As long as you're not deliberating between swings, you'd be okay.
Paintball would be appropriate.
So take a look at your calendars and see. I mean, certainly the last time we met was a Saturday, but if there's a different day at work or an evening, I really think that I'd like to come back to that survey and also maybe have a team building activity.
Thank you, Director Sell. I would like to just throw something in on that that was not, and maybe we could look at how we would need to create that meeting. But we did not bring up or discuss our, like, moving forward with our 5-year plan, kind of an idea of where we'd like to see the school district, what direction we want to take them. I think that is really, really important. And I don't know if that can be put into a meeting as long as it's open to the public, so we could make some, I don't know if there would be a deliberation, but discuss some issues that would help us, and then we can then vote on them here. But it would certainly would help to have a healthy discussion amongst board members about our direction and where we would see that take place. So if there's a way we can do that within that kind of a meeting, or if it would have to be a separate meeting, or the third Tuesday type thing, I'm not sure, but that's something I would like to look at in the future.
I have two things really quickly. I just wanted to let everyone know that negotiations committee met last night. And also, I do have a question, I guess, to Director Howard. With the whole fire company thing, one of the things before we even got to the last meeting, somebody on the board requested that President Gray contact Howard to ask him about the legality of donating and also the exoneration. And it was kind of shot down an email saying, you know, that's not appropriate. And I just wanted to double check to make sure, can President Gray contact you at his discretion, or is that something that we have to vote on as a board?
I think the board, by policy or concurrence, would need to decide what discretion you want the board president to have. I'm not viewing it as something that would be voted on every issue.
Right. Right.
But most boards would have either the superintendent or the business manager on some occasions, the president being in contact with the solicitor.
And if I recall, you said that it's not something that we would have to vote on, but is that something that you think we should vote on? That becomes an issue.
Well, again, I think the board should have an accepted practice so that you're not voting on an ad hoc basis.
Right.
Well, I jumped in right on that and said I would definitely like contact to you for your advice. And I think had we had that prior to the last meeting, we would not have had wasted an hour and looked like a circus. We would have had that information prior. So I personally, throwing that out, if it's not something that we're deliberating behind closed doors to say, Len, I would ask, and it was sent to all board members to say, can a contact be made for information on exonerating taxes? We would have had that prior. I jumped in and said, yeah, I support that.
Yeah, and the way most districts would work is a request would be made of the superintendent to contact the solicitor to provide legal guidance to the board on a particular topic.
Okay.
What I find interesting, that was not discussed. I don't believe at all at our committee meeting in February, and so that's why I kind of was shocked that it did pass in February, because it wasn't discussed really at all. Those questions weren't brought up even in our February committee meeting. And I had a fireman say, it's interesting, he said, because if it wasn't discussed, it's interesting how all the ones he was talking to had the same talking points. And that caused me to question, why were there the same talking points since it wasn't discussed in a public setting? So if that's the case, if it's being discussed outside of our committee meeting, I would be careful that we're not breaking the sunshine law and discussing topics that are brought before the board, because that was not discussed in a public setting in our committee meeting about tax exoneration.
Steve, I just want to say, what got me thinking about it was when I received a phone call, like I think everyone on this board except maybe one person from Robbie Taylor. So, like when I got thinking about it was when he called me, and I imagine that the things he said to me were similar to the things he said to you, or he said to Rachel. So I just want you to think about that point.
Oh, and I'm just saying, it was interesting if we all or some all had the same talking points. How did you have the same talking points since it was never discussed in the committee?
And the timeline was that we had a committee meeting, there was zero discussion on it. Then we had our board meeting, and then it was tabled. And that's after it was tabled in that discussion that Robbie contacted at least me. So there was, and to me it was mysterious too, that the 6 years that I've been on this board, that we fly through the exoneration every year without any discussion, except do we do this every year? And the answer is yep, and that's the end of it.
We don't do those every year. They were new. I think the thing that
No,
flags me
the
is that there were
Lickdale's been
several.
exonerated since 1989. So
And then there were two more.
there were two new ones, but there was no discussion on the two new ones at the committee meeting. And then there was a lot of discussion at the board meeting, and we decided to table it until this month.
We received the agenda. Usually Mary gets it up Saturday. So.
It was on the committee meeting's agenda.
Right, and I think we did ask questions that night.
Watch the tape.
What, I was gonna say, watch the tape.
I did bring up about Jonestown, and I was the only question that was asked that evening. It was not discussed.
After I was contacted by the fire company, which I've already explained the last meeting, then I contacted other school districts, and I contacted the county, which got me thinking, like, what are other school districts doing? So I put it out there. I put it out there last week. That's how it went for me.
I mean, the only reason I said it behooves us to be very careful if we're talking among ourselves, not to be breaking the sunshine law.
But back to the legal bill, I'm glad you brought this up, Rachel. Howard, you responded that you represent a lot of school districts, and there's very few that you spend more than $35,000 except for outside like bond work and things like that. You've been with this for a while now. Why does our meter run quicker and faster than the other school districts that you represent?
As a general matter, you're requesting more services.
And how are we unique that we need more general services, or is there some things that we can do to trim and become more in line with the other school districts that you serve?
Well, when you raise more issues and ask for more advice, more time's incurred, generally. I mean, some things you ask us and we know pretty quickly and we get back to you very quickly. Other things you ask of us do take more time. You also recently engaged us to become involved in the collective bargaining process. That's another high usage type of area. So
I'd call that in more like the bond type work. So how many districts do you represent? Have you come to their meetings like tonight? And what does that cost us per night?
There are, of the 21 school districts that we represent, you are one of 2 where we attend on a more regular basis. 19 others we rarely attend. So there are costs incurred with that. Not only attending, but preparing for and addressing issues that are going to come up during the meeting.
And is this a fixed fee, or are you on an hourly rate tonight?
It's on an hourly basis.
One part of the reason that it's costing more than the $35,000 be that didn't the old board just start having you come to meetings in late summer or fall?
We had attended one meeting a month for the first 4 months of our appointment at no cost to the district. That was something we volunteered to do as a way of you getting to know us and us getting to know you better. And then after that point, we've been asked, not on a regular basis, in terms of you'll be coming every month, but it seems like every month there's a request. Every month or so there's a request for us to attend either the committee or the board meeting.
But before that, you were never, did we not use a solicitor before last summer? I thought Steve and Davey had said, like in the olden days when things seemed to be well, we didn't need a solicitor.
That's correct.
Okay.
When I first got on the board, he used to come every board meeting, I believe, 14 years ago. But that ended shortly after I got on the board.
Right. So that kind of answers some of your question, Dave. For years, we didn't have one at all, so yes, it will be more expensive. And hearing tonight that something illegal was going on, it's kind of nice that I feel secure and comforted to know that, we did have a solicitor here to straighten that out tonight so we can move forward knowing that we can no longer exonerate something because it's actually illegal. So I think hopefully it could have saved us, from future embarrassment or actual lawsuit or whatever.
I'm not splitting hairs, but maybe I am, but I think the solicitor, and Howard, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, could have picked up this illegal activity by just looking at our agenda versus attending our meeting.
If we are allowed to ask him.
It's on the agenda, and he gets the agenda.
Right, but I'm saying if Glenn had emailed him and asked him, then we would have had that answer before that meeting.
For me, I just want Glenn to feel comfortable contacting the solicitor when necessary, whatever he deems necessary. So if that's something that we need to make a motion on, I would be looking to make a motion on that.
I don't think we have to, we've discussed that before.
We did discuss it before,
And then it became an issue.
and then when I sent out the email, it became an issue.
I don't know.
You saw the email.
I don't know if I did or not. I don't read all my emails yet.
Okay, I can check.
But I'm just saying, I think we gave Glenn that permission if we felt we needed to do that.
Okay, so
Which
it's out
I'm
there on
still-
the camera now.
That's fine.
At Glenn's discretion, he can contact the
Well, if you want to
solicitor.
make a motion, I don't think this is an emergency or need to be done because it's not on the agenda. I think that it could easily be added to April's meeting if you want us to vote on it.
It doesn't have to be an emergency, we just can allow the
Well,
public.
we can, but
to
I
make-
think it's a very bad practice. And that's why I made my motion to to add it to the agenda. So it's in the beginning of the meeting, it's very organized. Now we're just adding motions when people, oh, I want to do this, and add it at the end. Then we stop the meeting, have that public input. It really doesn't make us look like we're a very organized unit.
I'm not withdrawing the motion. Would anyone like to second it?
Second.
We need public discussion.
Public input?
I just hope we can, I was hopeful that the Robert Rules of Orders thing would help us look like we're an organized and cohesive unit, but I guess I was wrong.
What's the motion, Beth? Can you restate it?
That Glenn, the president, or whoever the president is, can contact the solicitor at their own discretion for the purpose of the board.
Without using the superintendent as we've done in the past.
I think that Howard had said before, and Steve was mentioning to that yes, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't mean that the superintendent can't contact him. I'm talking about the president.
And/or.
Gotcha.
More discussion? Mary, do you need more info? Please restate your motion.
Howard, you think I was saying it, and do I need to reword or any of those?
Well, if I understand the motion, it was that it was not related to the superintendent contacting the solicitor, because that's something that happens in the normal course, but that it was in addition to those types of contacts from the administration, that the board president would have the discretion in his or her judgment to contact the solicitor without board approval.
Well, that would be giving you.
Right, but the board president would not need to seek board approval every time he or she wished to contact the solicitor.
That's the motion. And you seconded it, correct?
I did.
I'll be voting no, not that I'm opposed to Glenn contacting the solicitor directly, but I'm voting no that I'm just tired of this lack of professionalism in these meetings, and that this is something that easily could have waited to be added to the April meeting, and so that's why I'm voting no.
As long as he's aware that, I mean, you're racking up money for our district, which is taking money away from our students. We've been hearing a lot about that this evening, about trying to save, so we would have money for, I'm not sure, was it discussed how much we spent this year and how much our budgeted amount is for a solicitor? Was that mentioned? Our budget, how much we have spent so far this year and how much we budgeted?
Approximate, we've spent from July to January, so it'll be half a year. You as a board have spent $38,000 on solicitor's fees and you budgeted 40. So my guess is, unless Howard's going to cut, maybe his bill is going to be zero for January or February. Just joking, Howard, I understand. I think you might be over budget already.
And I'll support this as long as Glenn's mindful that each time you call him, you're taking money away from our students. And you also have a wealth of information right beside you, whether it's Dr. Bell or whether it's the next superintendent. These guys have been in the trenches. They know very well what we're expected to do, what we need to do. And I would expect you to confer with them. Unless it's a contractual issue with him, I would expect you daily to talk to him and get opinions from Dr. Bell. If we would have done that over the past few months, we would have saved a lot of money, and we didn't do that.
Can we go?
Yeah.
Okay, we're ready to vote? Other comments?
I'm going to restate what I think the motion is. Move to approve that the president